You're live. Going live. You're live. Okay. I don't recall exactly where I left off. Um, in the previous video, I know it felt like it was running a little long, and once again, not very many people have watched it, but that's okay. And you can see the return of the linen shirt, although I think I was wearing a more colorful hat last year. We're not really having linen shirt weather per se outside yet, but also not really running the air conditioner all day inside either. So fine. Um, to back up slightly, for those who are just not going to watch part one for some reason, I'm not branding myself a minimalist, but we are going back to my original videos, the first 3 or 4 or whatever. We are trying to adopt some of their principles in terms of intentionally shopping and having informed consumerism and all that, instead of just buying stuff willy-nilly. What I'm seeing, I saw another video, I didn't even watch the whole thing, of a girl who had called herself an influencer and now kind of regrets not just her own purchasing choices, but telling people buy this, buy this, buy this kind of thing. I don't really do that, so I don't really have that like guilt or whatever. If I buy stuff that I don't end up using or needing, that's on me. But I'm mostly trying to convey like what fits in categories of subgenres or whatever, and you can pick and choose your own style from that. If you're going to buy this shirt because you saw me in this shirt, that's that because you like it, that whatever. I'm not telling you I'm not, sometimes I'll name the brands just because those are brands that I, use more often than others. But I'm not here to say, buy this brand of shirt. Like, this isn't meant to be any kind of advertisement. And certainly if your closet is overflowing, you may or may not want to follow some of this as advice, although this isn't necessarily the total declutter advice video. But I am going to read again from my notes from the one video where the gal had the advice. But I did watch a video from another woman who was not one of the ones I had seen previously, or don't remember having seen her videos before, where she started on some, it's part of the reason I'm doing this while it's still fresh in my head, is she had started on some 75-day challenge, and it was very specific. Now, 75 days is longer than a lot of them do. A lot of them do a month, and I agree that a month is not really long enough to necessarily implement any strategy. Okay, so she had tried to go for over 2 months doing this particular challenge, and I don't know all the parameters of the particular challenge, but basically you're supposed to document your wardrobe every single day, which I do not do that. You're supposed to not buy anything during that time period, which, again, it depends on how overflowing your closet is. If you really feel like you need to do that, because again, going to the declutter organized part of this video, that's more of a personal assessment. And I had already listed in the previous video some of the questions that 2 of the other women had posed to themselves or to the public or whatever about, kind of their, way that you categorize what clothes you're wearing the most often in a day, in a week, in a month, and how that adds up, and what kind of outfits you need to own versus what kind of outfits you think you need to own, right? And the one gal had come up with a flow chart that you won't be able to read, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically, because you can find this kind of thing reasonably easy, but this was if you hadn't worn it in a year. Now, I don't know how many of you have clothing lying around that you haven't worn in a year. Probably not most of you. I have clothing lying around that I haven't worn in more than a year, but I don't get rid of all of that, as I explained, because some of it is situational and some of it is seasonal, but doesn't always match up with the seasons we're actually having. Like, again, this shirt is not necessarily seasonal for outdoors right now. I'd still need a light jacket maybe, but plenty seasonal for recording a video. Okay. But of course I did wear this last year, so it's not a totally neglected piece either. But so, you know, I'll read part of the flow chart just to, you know, does it fit? Yes or no? You know, and then if the answer is no, then you can donate or sell it, right? Again, it's a little bit harder to sell used clothing sometimes than we'd like. Even if it has the tags on it, you're not going to probably get the money you want for it, but that's life. Again, you'll have to figure that out on your own, because I'm not going to do a 50-minute video on how to clean your closet when, you know, that's partly time you could be using to clean your closet. So, is it in good condition? So if it's yes, is it in good condition? Yes or no. You know, if no, can it be repaired? If no, then, you know, donate or sell. If yes, repair and keep. But again, even if you keep that, it doesn't mean you're still going to end up wearing it right away. These women, they tried to style new outfits based on previous things and men, it's a little bit less complicated than that, right? So that's why, again, unless you're a total clothes horse and you're just feeling overwhelmed, chances are some of this is just common sense. Okay. So then it comes to, have I worn it in the last year? Well, again, we were presupposing that before we even got to this question, I thought, but for some reason it's here now and comes back to what I was already saying. No. Is it currently in season? No. Then put it in the maybe pile and put it back in storage until you know it's in season, and then you can determine whether or not you want to wear it. That's the kind of thing that I have to do a lot, because, like I said, even though I haven't worn them in the last year, I know it's a perfectly good shirt. I'm not getting rid of it today. But if the answer is yes, then if it's in season, you can challenge yourself by styling it and wearing it right now. You know, start wearing it immediately. Again, that's maybe you don't want to. I don't know. But then if we're in yes, is it comfortable? Well, I think that goes back to, does it fit? I think that's the exact same question being asked twice, because whatever. But, you know, and if the answer is no, is it sentimental? And if it's sentimental, then you can keep it. Like, okay, like I said, I think that should be back in the first question. Like, are you keeping this because it's your 6th grade soccer jersey and you only have the one and it's been with you all this time? Maybe, depending on how overwhelmed you are with other, you know, clothing clutter. Okay, right. But most of our clothes we don't buy for sentimental reasons. I think in terms of women, this goes to things like wedding dresses, whereas men typically rent their wedding attire, so it's not entirely a one-to-one comparison. So we're not making fun of women here for keeping their wedding dress, obviously, but you're not going to wear your wedding dress. You're storing your, so yeah. Other sentimental clothing, like I said, you know, what was the sentiment? If it's your university sweater, maybe, but typically you can wear that doing, you know, house chores and things. You're not buying too many things like that that are sentimental that aren't also useful in utility garments, right? Whereas your dirty old work jeans from your first job, if you have attached sentimentality to that, you probably need to rethink. Stuff like that can go. All right. If it's a sweaty, nasty ball cap from way back when, or you want to probably get rid of that. Okay. Stuff like that. Like I said, this isn't the total advice, but again, a little bit common sense. If you're missing that piece that makes you realize, hey, this is gross and nobody will want this. Like I said, we're trying to keep it light here, even more than, well, nobody watched the ugly house video yet either, where, you know, we have to keep the topic really light when we're talking about ugly house, because some houses are, you won't have this problem as much with clothing. some houses are structurally unsound. So if you have a sentimental attachment to a literal death trap, that's a bad thing. You need to get the foundation fixed before you can build the rest of the house. All right. And that's on tomorrow night for those of you who don't watch it. It's a pretty funny show. Okay. So then, okay, if we've gotten a yes there, does it fit my personal style or character? If the answer is no, then we're going back to, is it sentimental? Again, most of us are not buying things that don't fit our current style. So that should be a little bit common sense. And again, if it's not our personal style, but it is sentimental because it's your weird old grandpa's sweater that, you know, there's only one in existence and it's fun to look at once in a while. Like, yeah, okay, put it in the trunk and, you know, put it in the closet, fine. Otherwise, yeah, you know, that should be pretty much no brainer that I don't wear this anymore. I don't even know why I ever wanted to. That should be pretty easy to get rid of. So then, yes, if it does fit your personal style, then, you know, does it make me feel great when I wear it? I don't think it has to make you feel great when you wear it. I think it just, you know, I think it just has to fit these other conditions. Is it in good condition? Is it comfortable? You know, I think should be enough. Then if it fits your personal style, because again, if it fits your personal style, then it should make you feel great already, because that's your style. That's your current you that you're presenting to the world, right? Then for some reason, if the answer is no, can it be tailored to fit better? So we're going back to a previous question about fit that was actually question 1, right? So we've already gone through whether or not it fits way back when. So like I said, some of these I think are in the wrong order. That's why I wasn't going to read the whole chart, and I'm still end up reading most of it. But then it says, you know, keep it, take it to the tailor. And if the answer is no, even though it's comfortable, it fits your style, but it doesn't make you feel great, I don't know why you're trying to tailor it. Again, like I said, I think we should have dealt with fit in the beginning. And then, of course, the answer to no would be donate it or sell it, or see if there's an alternate strategy in here where it says, you know, see if there's an alternate version available by a different brand. Well, that was something I was going to discuss regarding this shirt. Like, see, this brand, the shoulders are actually incorrect and the armpits are actually too tight. So when I took it to the tailor, she shortened the sleeves here because the sleeves were, you know, way down to here or something, and did nothing with this. But you don't notice that when I'm just wearing it normal. It's only if I'm trying to do, you know, some super athletic activity that I would never intentionally be doing in this style of shirt, though. So it doesn't really matter that much. If this was a work shirt and I was out chopping wood or, you know, fixing an auto or something, no, you know, I want a shirt that fits better than this. But I can wear this just fine casually. It's not destroying my life to have it kind of bunchy here and there. Because again, most of the fashiony linen shirts you're going to find are all going to be tailored the same way. And even the less expensive shirts that you're going to find are all tailored the same way now. You almost have to get custom shirts to get any shirt that fits now, because somewhere along the line, someone decided that it would cut corners or cost less or something to do the shoulders and the armpits wrong. And they've all been wrong for the last 12 years or whatever ever since. So if I got rid of this because it doesn't fit exactly correctly and it doesn't make me feel great, I would have no shirts left in my closet except for the ones I got at Mervyn's 20 years ago that have mostly worn out or don't fit. So then but if the answer is yes, then the next question is, do you wear it regularly? And of course, if the answer is yes, you keep it. But if the answer is no, which was the whole point of this trying to figure out, then she has you looping back to challenge yourself to style it, wear it today, wear it. Why haven't you been wearing it? It fits all your criteria. Bing, 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 bing. Then what's the problem? Why has it been sitting in storage for a year? Again, I don't think most of us have that problem with most of our garments, at least. So it's kind of so some of this might be a state from the previous video. Stuff that I had definitely skipped. Yeah, I forget if both of them, but one of them at least wanted you to write a wardrobe wish list. Again, filling in those gaps of the things when you go to style these garments, what's missing in terms of accessories or that perfect blouse that would go with that skirt. Again, we don't think that way typically as men, so it doesn't fit the same way for us. It's more of like, I can wear a plainer shirt than this, excuse me, with no pattern, with a tie, or by itself. But if I'm wearing it with a tie, I probably want a sport jacket. If I'm wearing it without a tie, I can still wear a sport jacket. But if it's a plain shirt, it's going to go with pretty much any sport jacket. So I'm trying to find a sport jacket that maximizes my shirts, right? Or I'm buying, but I could still wear a pattern like this with a sport jacket if it wasn't too busy, or if the sport jacket was plain and this was my pop of color, as I explained way back in whichever video that was last year. Okay, so it's a little bit different for me. I think we buy a shirt that we like and then we hope it goes with something else if we need it to go with something else. So it's not like, I've always said this during capsule wardrobe videos. Men and women's clothing does not work exactly the same way. The capsule concept does not work exactly the same way. And it can't work exactly the same way with men's clothing. But men's clothing by default is more geared toward uniformity, maybe more than capsulism. If we're going to try and make phrases and things based on this, because we don't layer in exactly the same way. Our clothing is not constructed in the same way. What a woman wears that would be considered too casual for a man for like the office, a woman can wear a cardigan sweater to the office and people won't think she's just there to smoke her pipe and put up her feet and pet her dog and read a book. You know what I mean? Like, it's just because it doesn't have a Mr. Rogers vibe, you know? But then the other thing she wanted you to write was, or not you, well, her viewers, was a style slip-up diary where you have actually made mistakes, although how you're still making mistakes after all this time, I don't know when you've watched other videos. I'm not giving you homework of that nature. You know, again, if you go back and watch the previous video and you want to follow along those steps of how to characterize your necessary daily wardrobe and whatever, that's fine. That's a little more useful, I think. Again, not the same exact with men's clothes as women's clothes, but a little more useful. And again, not crunching all the numbers the way the one woman did, where she really did like a pie chart of, you know, her actual days and that kind of thing. Don't need to go that far. Again, men's clothing, a little more utility than, you know, color combinations and outfits and kind of, it's a little more like if I wear a blue tie instead of a red tie, I have a totally different outfit almost, you know. So then declutter and identify, you know, I guess what is worn out versus what I didn't wear. Again, what I was just talking about with the flow chart. If you don't understand that the clothing is worn out and that, you know, it's not really public appropriate versus the stuff that you bought that you never wore, which again, separate issue from the, because I have a lot of stuff that I haven't worn because I still have stuff that is kind of worn out that I still wear, because if I'm just bumming around the house, why am I taking out a brand new shirt? I understand. But again, if someone called me at the last minute and said, hey, I'm picking you up for dinner, I would change my shirt. Like, it might not be one of the ones I've never worn, but it would definitely not be the one that I would not wear to even Burger King. Okay. And then again, it comes back to the flow chart. If it's not part of your lifestyle anymore, either because of fashion or because of size, then why are you keeping it? Now, of course, the old phrase, fashion is cyclical. The problem is by the time the cyclical comes around back to when you want to wear that again, it probably doesn't fit. So, I've been there, trust me. Because like I said, if I could still fit in all the stuff I had in high school, you know, I wouldn't need new clothes, right? If they weren't all worn out already. So if you haven't worn it in over a year, and don't dump it, and make a mind map of yes or no's, and have a maybe pile, and put stuff back in storage for 3 months. This is her advice that um, yeah, I don't have a problem with putting stuff back in storage. 3 months might not even be enough. And she says this, it might be 6 months depending on the season. Again, yes, if I have a bunch of winter clothes, but I live in California and winter ended in February, I'm not throwing away all my winter clothes and having to rebuy them all in November when it might get cold again, or January when it finally gets cold again and hopefully stays cold through, March or May so I can wear most of them. Whereas in summertime here, if you're out doing stuff, you can, and it's not even that humid here, but it's hot. Places where it's humid is probably even worse, where, you want to change your shirt every couple hours if you can. And then you're just doing laundry more times a week, but you'll wear out more clothes more quickly, if it's warmer, I would say, than if it's colder, obviously, because you have to rotate them and wash them a lot more often. So stuff like that, the fact that it lasts more than a year, it just does. Like I showed before, I have shirts that are literally that old. The collar is messed up. So again, I might not wear this out to a nice dinner or even to go shopping, but the rest of the shirt is still basically fine. Depends on what I'm doing. So put it out of sight, and then if it hasn't been worn before, then it's like opening a present and getting a brand new shirt. Yes, I've experienced this many times. Unfortunately, like I said, I don't wear them still, and sometimes they stay in storage for 2 or 3 years, which again I would say is excessive. Try not to do that, because then you're spending more money on clothes than you really need to. But every now and then, it depends on what it is. If I really want to put it away for later, most things I don't. Okay, I already talked about the Indiana Jones cosplay thing in the previous video. Not just like having a true authentic style, that's her phrase. Is not just copying other people. Yes, having a curated wardrobe. Yes, like I said, even if it's stuff that we've put away in storage for 6 months to a year, we still picked that piece intentionally instead of just grabbing it because we saw it at a thrift store or on a sale or something. Okay. And again, so if we did just get it at a thrift store or on a sale and we haven't worn it in a while, then the flow chart, like, okay, why did I buy this in the first place? Can I get a buck for it, or does it just need to go? There's just no sentimental value to me in terms of, I didn't even pick it because I really wanted it. I just picked it because I was shopping and I figured I would need 8 shirts to get through a week. And I bought 9 shirts because they were cheap. And 3 of them are still in there, and I don't like any of them. Like, whatever. Again, I don't think men do that as much in the same way as women. I think we tend to mostly buy the stuff that we're pretty sure we're going to use, because we're not thinking how we're going to style it. We're just like, oh, I like striped shirts, therefore I'll get 3 of those. It's a generalization, but what are you going to do? So then to have your curated wardrobe. Now, she was saying, you can swap with other gals for new ideas. Guys, we don't tend to swap clothes very much. If you're, in the dorm and you need something for a date, you might borrow something from your buddy once. I mean, I remember my high school yearbook picture. I borrowed a sport coat from a friend because I didn't own a sport coat. That doesn't, like, the one time I can remember that it happened, right? Or if you're going to a sports game and you want to blend in and your buddy has 6 jerseys and you only have white shirts or green shirts or something, then yeah, maybe you borrow a jersey until you get there and buy one or something, whatever. Again, not a typical one-to-one comparison, men to women. And this video is running long and I don't care because nobody watched the last one and you probably haven't gotten this far, but I still have 2 more pages of notes to get through that we'll have to save for next time. So then make a lookbook. Yeah, you can do that. Most guys probably don't. Again, if you're already stylish, you're probably already doing that. redundant clothes. She had an issue with redundant clothes. Again, with menswear, redundant clothes are kind of the norm. You need 4 pairs of jeans. You need 4 pairs of chinos if you have an office job, or maybe 6. You need 3 pairs of shoes that aren't all exactly the same but kind of do the same thing. So for men, redundant clothing is actually, like, I always come back to, like, army uniform, Indiana Jones, certain looks, like cowboy, you can get a little more flamboyant with it, pilot a little less. That's kind of a specific look. But if you have an office job where they say office casual, Hawaiian shirt day. Okay, so there's one day a week when you can maybe wear something kind of outrageous. The rest of the week, you're definitely not wearing all Hawaiian shirts, right? So you might want to own 3 or 4 Hawaiian shirts, so you're not wearing the exact same Hawaiian shirt all, summer every day at work. But it's still basically a camp shirt, so it's kind of redundant, even though the patterns are different. Oh, this week it's red, next week it's blue. Storage for a year, get the new thing. Yes, we covered that. Store maybe 3 to 4 most of months. Sorry, store for 3 to 4 months. If it goes through the flow chart and you've stored it for 3 to 4 months, that's your time will tell box. Again, I usually try to get through all that stuff in the course of a year, but it doesn't always happen. Learn from mistakes. Well, there you go. Your time will tell box is your mistakes, right? Or the stuff that you don't like as your style anymore is your mistakes. Why didn't you like it? Why didn't you like that brand? That kind of thing. Would I buy this brand again? Again, yes, because where else am I going to find a shirt that's cut correctly that does what this does? I'm kind of stuck. Again, unless I'm getting all tailored clothing where I can construct my own, I'm kind of stuck buying what's out there. Am I, if I find another brand that fits better, am I going to switch? Yes. Okay. Life in transition. This has to do with if you change jobs or if you're moving, that kind of thing. I think, obviously, that's a can of worms. That's why it's kind of at the end of their video where they don't go into it too deep, and that's why it's at the end of this video where I'm not going into it too deep. I think it's kind of self-explanatory. If you're moving from a bigger space to a smaller space, you're going to have less room for stuff, in which case you will be forced to declutter, but you'll also have an easier time reorganizing, hopefully, theoretically, when you get to the new space, if you can label your boxes correctly and not have too much trouble figuring out what's where. In which case, you will be finding stuff 6 months from now and going, oh, I didn't even know I had this, if you have a ton of boxes and a bunch of them are in a garage. Whereas if you move to an apartment, what's there is what's there, unless you've put a bunch of stuff in an actual storage, container place or a pod or whatever. When, oh, the things I'm looking for are not here, they're in there, then you're really in trouble because you mislabeled your boxes and now the ones you need are in the wrong location. Like I said, can of worms. Most of us don't have that much chaos if we move. And then she says that your journey is, non-linear, and it's good to risk things and try on different styles, which, to a degree, again, if you're not wasting a ton of money because you've decided that you're going to dress Regency period all the time like that one guy, and you buy all this Regency period outfits, but you work as a mechanic or you chop wood. I did not even get to these 2 pages still. So I guess this will have to be for next week. And I really wanted to get into some of this stuff. And so I'm going to take the extra time, closet organizing, curating the thoughtful wardrobe. Some of this will be redundant, but some of it will go into even more depth than here that I thought I was going to go into. Although some of this I definitely think I did cover already. either in this video or the previous video, like lifestyle assessment and styles, colors, fits, and that kind of thing. So we're not too far off the beaten path of accomplishing something, I hope. Okay. If there's any questions, put them in the comments.